Yeah, Mr. Secretary, I want to get back to TikTok. That seems to be the hot topic right now, right? If there is a deal, divestment, and there are a couple of U.S. groups that are in the running for that, the terms of the deal, I'm curious, what do you think we should be expecting? And you've been in the thick of this stuff as a former Commerce Secretary, right? Secretary Bessent would not say whether ByteDance would transfer control of the app's underlying technology to whoever ends up buying it in the U.S. The Chinese side is saying, look, yeah, I could probably see a case for maybe licensing intellectual property, including their algorithms. Do you see that as a possibility at all, that a U.S. buyer would end up either buying the technology over or paying to license its use? This would be Chinese technology and a Chinese algorithm.
Yeah, and that's the big issue, the algorithm. So it could be that this 20% that China would retain, and if the U.S. can come in and also be an investor, that could be a balance to ensure that the U.S. government is watching out to see what's going on, to be able to put some guardrails on. The other option is that the algorithm stays with China and that U.S. investors have to develop their own algorithm. That could take longer. That could be a problem in the deal. But the algorithm will be the key issue. And the question is whether this 20% that China would retain, whether that is a way of making investors feel comfortable that China retains the algorithm because they're part investor, they have a commitment to the other investors, and if the U.S. comes in, then that could be what clinches the deal.
Mr. Secretary, hi, this is Christine. As a follow-up to that, I have two questions. Do you see any implementation challenges if the deal was to go through with what you said? And also, does this deal somehow set a precedence for the U.S. and how they will treat other foreign-owned tech firms, especially Chinese ones, going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yes, this is not going to be an easy implementation. There's a lot of concern in the U.S. A lot of people want TikTok to stay, but there's a lot of political backlash. A lot of people do not. And there's a lot of nervousness about anything having to do with Chinese technology and Chinese algorithms. So it won't be an easy implementation. Most likely the Congress will be involved. They will definitely be involved if the U.S. wants to take some kind of a stake. But, the big opportunity here is, will the U.S. be willing, and China as well, to open up the option of Chinese foreign investment in the U.S., which, as you know, has declined by 95%, let's say. And that is, President Trump wants more investment in the U.S. He's asked that from Japan, from the European Union. Is there a scenario where China would invest in the U.S.? Would it be possible for China to invest, say, in automobiles in the U.S.? It sounds very far-fetched, but in these types of talks where President Trump is looking for something bold, I wouldn't discard anything. And as you say, that the fact that the Chinese would retain an investment in TikTok could be what opens the door to more investments in the U.S.
Mr. Secretary, do you see China now turning the tables on U.S. tech? Because coincidentally, China lashing out on Nvidia now comes into play.
Yeah, there's a sense that that is a tactic, because it came out of nowhere yesterday, and there have been other complaints about Nvidia, but most people believe, and people who are close to this believe, that is a tactic to be able to push back on the negotiations, to show that not everything is well with Nvidia. The problem with Nvidia started when the CEO, Jensen, convinced President Trump that the strategy should be to share technology with China as a way of making China rely on the U.S. tech stack. And of course, that could be a very logical strategy, but it's very open, it's very public, and the intention is very clear. So I don't know if China is just going to fall into it that easily. And that could be the reason for China just showing that they're not desperate for Nvidia. as they showed yesterday and as they've showed in the past, the last couple of weeks. So that's also part of the politics. But look, Nvidia right now with the H20 is the best thing that the U.S. can offer China. So they're still in the game, and I would guess that this problem with the Israeli company will find a solution in the near term.